And if everything went well, it should be live.
We're live.
Nothing special happens, no fanfare. We just we just go live. Yeah, well, welcome to the show, Danielle. And
Thank you.
yeah, welcome everyone to another episode of Everything Outside Code, where I talk to a fantastic creator, GTM expert, founder, um, engineer. And today I have Daniele Bernardi. Daniele.
Daniele, yes,
Yeah.
the Italian roots.
Yeah. Bernardi on the call. And Danielle has been like a bit of everything. I say you've done, you did solutions engineering at Facebook, and you went on to lead developer advocacy at Twitter, developer relations at Twitter, and also worked at Ghost, doing product. I felt like the natural conclusion was becoming like a founder and a CEO eventually. I felt like the path. But thanks for coming on the show today,
No,
Daniela.
of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. Well, today we're going to be talking about agents, developer relations, all the really folks call boring, but I call the difficult stuff outside, outside building a product. But first, to the man of the moment, Daniela, could you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got here?
Yes. So, Daniele, today, and I hope for the rest of my life, I'm the CEO of Toolhouse. Uh, how did I get here? I got here by means of being an engineer myself. So, I started with plain old engineering. Um, and I started actually with kind of the entrepreneurial bug. I had my small like businesses. I was working in Ireland, in Dublin, for myself as a contractor, building the first like
Mhm.
mobile apps for the first app stores when it was like a hot commodity. And then Facebook noticed the work I was doing, and they were building this mobile team, and they wanted to build this solutions engineering team, initially targeted at mobile. And then while I was interviewing, the interviewer told me, "Well, we have good news and bad news. Good news is this is going great. Bad news is that the position is not for mobile anymore; it's for ads. Are you still interested?" And so I said, "Sure." I didn't know what I was getting into, to be honest. I didn't even have, I barely had a Facebook account back then.
Yeah.
And so I said, yeah, sure. And so everything went well, and I got hired. And I was like, okay, let's see what this Facebook thing is from the inside. And it was this huge thing, humongous thing. Even if it was like 2011, so we were like what 2 years before IPO. But I've seen like basically a very well-run startup becoming a public company, and all the things that happen behind the scenes. Like I got to work with a lot of very interesting like big companies back then,
Mhm.
um, and then that was the beginning of the end of the beginning, basically. That's
Yeah.
that's how it all started, because with those teachings, those things, like the exposure to that momentum, I got hooked. It's just like addictive, that you want more of that, and I never stopped like chasing that kind of feeling, that kind of momentum. And so I towards my career, I started doing that kind of in the same space, developer relations. Uh, I ended up at Twitter like 4 Twitters ago. Basically, I started when Jack Dorsey, I don't know if people remember the name, was still the
Yeah.
CEO. And then I left after Elon came. I kind of like stayed there for a little bit, and I was like, that's where, like you
Mhm.
said, I started to figure out, okay, do I want to still work for a company or build my own? So
Yeah.
I gave uh, like being an employee a go for a while with Ghost. It lasted 1 year. I was like, no, I think I'm ready. I think the world has this problem and needs to be solved. And like we're a big problem that even at Ghost we identified, which is help me build agents and make them run while our laptops are closed. Like the majority of agents, even today, still run on your laptop and still work 9 to 5. There's no reliability when your laptop is closed, and what works on your laptop may not work on the cloud, and vice versa. So we
Mhm.
make it easy for everybody, not just developers, to build agents. And like here we are, like we are a year old, still going strong, growing. We still had time to do
Yeah.
these kind of things. So I was the result of all these experiences combined.
That's amazing, man. Going from solutions engineering and then to developer advocacy and catering to developer advocates. And I'm very particular, like interested in your experience at
Yeah.
Twitter across like three CEOs. How did
Right.
that go from a developer experience standpoint, especially building like doing developer experience at a company that's very like outward facing social media company? How was that? How was that experience?
Yeah. So in 4 years, I lasted 4 years at Twitter. We went from a almost like 8,000 people kind of company to like barely 2,000.
Okay.
And yeah, you have like three CEOs, and everybody brings their own kind of perspective to the table. Especially for Twitter, I built the developer relations team for like advocacy community, all this kind of stuff that wasn't there anymore. Twitter had this strong background in developer and it being a very allowing platform. Like if you think that Twitter itself, the app was built on top of the Twitter API, the same API that developers will use to build maybe even their own clones. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, it was a very loved brand by developers up until 2018, where we basically made a series of decisions that would disenfranchise developers from ever building on the platform. There was this app I actually love to remember, um, Tweetbot. It was one of the top three apps by monthly active users. Basically, they had uh, a big chunk, millions of users using that app and using Twitter through that app. At some point, we made their life as hard as possible, and they obviously lashed back at us. They said, you know, like they made this many changes. I'm not going to be developing anything on Twitter anymore. And we are like, why that happened? Because Twitter wanted to kind of get more revenue from enterprise customers, so bigger companies like Apple, Salesforce, IBM, like name big companies. We had them. Like my accounts were Google, Apple, Samsung, and a couple more. So I would basically work directly with them, and they would
Mm-hmm.
basically give in tens of millions of dollars a year just to access public tweets. And for a moment, Twitter decided that was all the money that were to be made with the Twitter API. So
Yeah.
at some point, we basically were very successful at that, to the point that we sold to every possible enterprise out there that needed tweets. There was no customers left for us to conquer anymore, and so our growth was flat.
You're flat, and you didn't
Yeah,
keep growing at some point. Like,
yeah, and at some point we realized, myself and few other people, like, can we, like, if there are no customers left to sell this kind of thing to, how do we grow? And the only way of growing is by creating the enterprises of the future from the millions of developers who still want to build with Twitter, or still knew that building on Twitter could give you money, revenue,
mm-hmm.
as a destiny, as an outcome. And so we were trying to push internally harder against this like preconception that money only comes from enterprise. And we started to rebuild the strategy for the new Twitter developer platform. And internally, our goal was that turning back people's opinions. So the Tweetbot app that was completely against us, our internal goal was to actually make make friends with them again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something you can't really measure in numbers, but it's the kind of qualitative goal,
Yeah.
that an impact that you want to reach. So we set this like 2 year long journey to
Mm-hmm.
restart, and we did a lot of things. Like we started to work on one big thing: trust. Like people didn't trust us anymore because we pulled the rug under the feet immediately by making it hard for them to build stuff. And so
Yeah.
we started to go back out and say, hey, sorry, we redid the team. Those are new faces, new people in product. Let us show what we have in mind. And
Yeah.
little by little, people told us no chance in hell. Then they told us, okay, nice, we're talking, but where's the action? So we started to do some actions, and then we rolled out eventually. Like, took us 2 years to rebuild the entire platform. And the biggest thing happened. This guy from Tweetbot, um, we eventually contacted, we showed them stuff, and he had a ton of feedback, and we incorporated the feedback into the project, into the product itself. And when we released that, he was surprised that we actually listened, to the point that we had engineers work on the feedback he had. And he tweeted back one of the nicest things you could ever read when you're in this kind of position. And it was like something along the lines of, I was skeptical that Twitter would actually even listen to people like me, but now I have the full confidence that they are on the right path. Like, I cried at the point. I literally like shed a tear here. I was like, this is the most beautiful feeling. I want this for the rest of my life. And that's basically what got me hooked. And those were still the things under the first Twitter with Jack Dorsey, when it was very how can I say, a very optimistic, very idealistic kind of way of conceiving social media as a very open kind of medium, like a public service. If the NPR was a tech company, it would have been that kind of Twitter, I want to say. So
Yeah.
the public, any public service that you have, like something open to everybody, it can make mistakes but owns it, you know. Then we had this transition period when when Jack left and Parag came aboard. There was like a kind of a caretaker CEO, and then Elon happened, and there was like uh, we all we had to do was just a damage control at the point internally. You know, like people
Yeah.
stopped working. Like Slack was like the Matrix. You know, it went this fast. I've never seen like Slack moving that fast ever. When the deal was announced, and then when the deal completed, the chaos, mayhem. You know, it was the in a way, like, am I grateful that I got into that situation? Yes, because it gives you a ton of kind of management challenges and that you graduate from. Would I do it
Yeah.
again? Heck no.
Yeah. That's one hell of an experience. I must say, and it feels like doing developer, relations on hard mode,
Yeah,
right? Because you're constantly being like critiqued for like every action that you do make, and you your users aren't just developers or folks building other products that reach a couple thousand people. These are folks that are building products that are reaching millions of people, and millions of people on the platform use your product on
yeah,
their systems. Yeah, so that's tough. And then the transition, obviously, is that lesson in management, the hard lesson that you look back to, you were happy you got the lesson, but at the same time, you're like, if I had to choose in hindsight, I don't think I would do this again. And now at Two House, I guess, still pretty early. I see you're like, oh, just over a year into that, building agents, which is like the hottest thing at the
yeah.
moment. So I'm curious, in your opinion, why agents the way you build it, or the way you're building it currently? I see from examples on the Two House websites, the agents are mostly specialized.
Yeah.
So why your approach? Why did you take that approach to agents rather than just building general agents for more like generic use cases that could be model specific rather than being use case specific?
Yeah, you sound a lot like potential investors I talk to. You know, that's a very common question, because like you can splice and dice the market in two ways: horizontal and vertical. You know, there's an
Mhm.
agent, like vertical is there's an agent for healthcare, one for finance, one for sales, one for marketing, and then there's the horizontal. What do you need to do? I need to automate my job. I need to do the same thing all over again. I need to help make this agent work while my laptop is closed. I need to make money while I'm away from work, or when I'm on a meeting. So those are, or I need to prototype. That's not a pretty legit use case. So this is the horizontal, and you need to prototype a sales agent or a marketing agent or a healthcare agent. People have uh, a huge lot of options when it comes to vertical agents. That I don't know. I can at least 50 different companies that do sales agents, AI sales of some sort, you know. But does it really connect to their needs, specifically of tweaking the process or finding the right uh, connection to not just the internal systems, but also their thoughts? And the answer is no. So people still need help building their own agents. And
Hmm.
there's also another big theme there, that look at the job market. So the job market is, especially here in the US, is plummeting. Uh, the kind of job with the most hardship right now, the one that's the least likely to get um, a job offer, is a junior engineer, because its position being eaten by AI. Those people have a lot of capabilities, but still, building their own infrastructure, if they want to build a company, still costs a lot. And so either they get a check from an investor or they bootstrap. And to me, that is the pivotal point of the global economy. There's not going to be like salary and employees anymore. It's going to be small companies that are going to sell their own small services to other small companies. And the economy is going to probably be the global freelance economy, or the global small business. 99% of businesses in the US, 90% in Europe, are small businesses already, less than 500 employees. So that trend is only going to go up and persist, where
Yeah.
a lot of people will enter their economic freedom, their financial freedom, by means of not finding a job, but creating their own company.
Yeah.
So what we're offering through Tulaus is really that means, like, we give you all the hard parts done simple. So the infrastructure, the prompting, you don't have to prompt. You just need to tell Tulaus what you want, and there's an assistant that helps you out. And we have an internal goal of building an agent, a working agent, within 2 steps. So when you do that, you have your first agent done within 2 interactions with the agent builder. We call Agent Studio, um,
Hmm.
and you're good to go. Then you start refining what you want, but you have already an agent that's yours. It's not something you need to type onto ChatGPT and then repeat the same prompt all over again. You have context management, you have RAG, you have the infrastructure, and what works on your laptop is guaranteed to work on the cloud. And this is mostly important for, again, marketing, sales, where the agent needs to go and browse the internet. Usually, when you browse the internet with an agent from your laptop, the agent uses your residential connection, which means that you are able to access websites that you're not able to access if your agent is published on the cloud. So we make it
Hmm.
consistent and everything works seamlessly. So you're guaranteed that if something works in your laptop, it will work on the cloud. And this is the peace of mind that shockingly, um, customers don't find elsewhere. So
Yeah.
we, like, always, I always say, like, we offer, we're a SaaS, but not software as a service, simplicity as a service. That's what we
Oh,
sell. Like, the simplicity is what people are actually ultimately paying for.
yeah. And that's a good one. Simplicity as a service.
Mhm.
Ultimately, I feel like software wins. They keep it stupid simple,
Yep.
and eventually they win. And yeah, to your point about jobs, I think right now as a junior engineer, you are most likely going to get the second interview with a VC fund than the first interview with like a regular interviewer for a job. uh, if you were if you're a junior engineer at the moment. Something that you said you mentioned twice now that I've taken note of is you give folks the ability to run agents while their laptops are closed, right? So you can go about your day, and these agents are autonomous, right? But currently with AI as we know it today, you always want to have a human in the loop, even with as a developer, as you know, using tools like Cursor that promise agents. At least they're the closest we have currently to development agents. You always need to hit tab or hit enter or click accept with these because you want to be around. You want to help guide the agent. How do you approach this human in the loop requirement where you want to have an agent that runs 100% autonomously?
Yeah. Again, to us, it's simple. If you
Hmm.
need it, you get it. If you don't, you don't need it. And there are two different use cases for that, or two different stories, if you will. Like, what's very hard today to do is like simple, like internal operation automation, like from very simple things. Like I want an agent that every day goes on my task list that I have on the Notion page and sends me on Slack a recap of who should be doing what. That doesn't require a human in the loop, or I want an agent that every day goes on my Gmail inbox, reads all the emails that are in newsletters, and gives me a newsletter to rule them all. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like, frankly, like I don't have time to read all those newsletters. I just want a recap of all the newsletters to see if I missed out on anything. So I just want the one single recap. To do that, like either you get to a specialized verticalized agent, which I inherently don't trust because it's another service that reads my inbox and no, or I build it myself. But to build it myself, I need to just plug all the things on my laptop, write a bunch of code. It doesn't work like that. I wish there was a way where I could just like go to a platform and say, hey, can you enter my Gmail every day and summarize just the newsletters and give me a summary on Slack? You know, this thing is a very simple operation. Yet the
Mm-hmm.
number of steps you have to do either by building yourself or select the software, select the agent out there ready made that does it. It's just like too cumbersome. You know, you should be able to do it again in two steps. So that is
Yeah.
the kind of simplicity that doesn't require human in the loop. Like you don't have to confirm, oh, is this newsletter okay? No, you just want a recap of what the agent thinks is a newsletter into your inbox. So that's the case
Yeah.
where you don't need the human in the loop, and that's totally fine. Like automation, that's a prime example. For other things, like yeah,
More complex scenarios, you
like
know.
you are building your sales pipeline, and you want to send a cold email to a potential new customer. You want to understand, at least for the first like 10, 15 leads, if the agent is doing well or not in identifying a lead. You want an agent that goes on the internet, finds, I don't know, 50, 70 potential customers with their email, with their physical address, maybe phone number, and then goes back to you and say, oh, before I send this email, here's the email I have in mind, and this is the list of leads. Are you okay with that? Yes. And so you have that option because like obviously as part of what Tools offers, it offers you an interface where you can actually chat with the agent, and so you can confirm with the agent before performing any actions whether you want to perform the action or not. So it really depends on what you have to do, but it's not that
Mm.
human in the loop is a given. It's something you have to have. It really
Must
depends
do.
on the use case, and sometimes you want it and you don't have it. But
Mm-hmm.
here you have the best possible flexibility. You're
Yeah.
guided towards what you will, what's the right thing to do. uh, you're always suggested, nudged, what's the next best action. But we're not prescriptive of, oh no, we're against one pattern
Mm-hmm.
or the other.
Yeah. Within the context of startups and building companies, right, which is something like uh, our audience are interested in. What are some of the ways you've seen folks been able to abstract the mundane tasks using agents? What are agents, or what are ways in which you can have these agents that are, or things that you feel like these agents are now smart enough to take on, and just make like a business a
Yeah.
whole lot better?
Yeah. First of all, it's almost 2026, and yet some especially the more technical founders are still skeptical of agents. That is, but then you see them in the growth that they have, which is like almost non-existent because they spend a lot of time building their own things because they don't trust the solution, or they want to do it themselves, or because for technical people it's very that we are compelled. I'm an engineer as well, and we're always compelled by like solving puzzles. So AI today is a big box of like this 5,000 pieces jigsaw puzzle that you have to assemble it, and you feel so satisfied when it's all assembled and does something on your laptop. But by the time you finish it, then the world AI has moved on to a bigger, better solution, and you're left behind. So
Yeah.
that's the premise. Uh, Smart founders do build a lot of automations through agents, and we saw that like one of our sweet spot is actually on startup founders and small and medium businesses. Why? Because they're sometimes, most of the times, are not technical. They need to automate, and they they find that the usual like Zapier N8N are not that great in, or they're a little bit too stubborn. They're not as flexible. They need automation
Mhm.
that thinks. And so they build agents to automate pretty much mostly they start with marketing. Can I, given the release notes from this commit from my engineering team, can I create a blog post hiding all the internal stuff and just like put in more marketing forward? And so they feed a couple of existing blog posts that they want the new blog post to look like on a Toolhouse agent, and then all they do is to connect GitHub, and they basically have the blog post done. And some they just like create a draft on Notion for review later. Some others just like have the text and then they copy paste it into whatever CMS they use. So that is one of the big things that happen. Like we are the prime example. Like we built Toolhouse on Toolhouse. Like we use Toolhouse agents to build our own operations. Like if you go on our YouTube has grown like amazingly. Like we went in a few months we went from like 160 subs to now we I think we have 31,000. You know, the descriptions are all AI generated by 12. So
Okay.
we don't hire marketing for that. We just like know what's best, what works, and we just like told 12, hey, look at look at videos with amazing views and great descriptions, take those, and then here's the video, here's the transcript, generate the best possible description. And so every time a video is published, before publishing it, we run the transcript through Toolhouse, and it gets us the description that we then copy paste into the YouTube channel. So it's very easy. A little bit of human in the loop there, see, because we do copy paste because we want to figure out, okay, is there anything that we want to
Mhm.
change? Uh, but there's automated there, and we save a lot of money. If you think that basically every execution into ours, it's just basically one credit. One credit is 1 cent or less if you purchase a higher plan. So we do marketing for 1 cent a video. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm curious. Employing these agents are fantastic, but companies evolve. How do these agents evolve alongside the companies?
Yeah,
How do you approach that?
yeah. So the task itself sometimes is pretty static. It's the data or the knowledge around that evolves, and we solve for that in a couple of things. First is with MCP and with connectors, so you can connect to your own CMS, to your own Notion. Like there are like thousands of integrations we enable, and you can bring your own. So if you don't trust our own MCP gateway, you can just bring your own. Um, it's just like a URL, and you're good to go. When you do that, the accuracy of the outcome of the agent improves greatly, because if every day I have access to the most recent, I don't know, emails or to the most recent support tickets, then you're good. The agent knows
Mm.
already. If your task changes, then you go back and edit the agent. And within 2 hours, you have this environment where you can test out changes before publishing them. So you have always a preview environment before you can publish your changes out in the wild. You can also fork an agent, so you can create a copy basically. So if you want to change a task before rolling it out, you can create a completely separate copy of the agent and work in parallel. So it's pretty flexible on that, and we obviously
Mhm.
knew that users needed this kind of sandbox, a playground to test out changes before incorporating the agent into the new task or the new workflows that they had internally.
Yeah, now that's cool. And something you said that piqued my interest also is you said the agent knows. And previously, you said users want automation that thinks.
Yeah,
This brings me to think about reasoning, right? There are a lot of reasoning models now. Do they reason like humans? I don't know. I don't know what the underlying math is, but they're supposed to be the backbone of more intelligent, models that power these AI agents and systems that we build. How have you approached reasoning also within the constraints of context that you have? Is that
yeah.
something you consider, or you feel like, regular models or if you have to deploy them like on site, small models work? Um, or have you seen a better performance with like reasoning versus just the regular stuff when it comes to building agents?
We need to start putting a lot of air quotes around reasoning,
Yeah.
intelligence. Oh my God, like bold air quotes. Uh, we have strong opinions on that, and
Okay.
I'll tell you what my opinion is. So in this world where we pay per token, there's a big problem with reasoning. Reasoning means more tokens. Like when you look at what reasoning does, reasoning is a technique that models employ to basically kind of bias their own context with uh, steering. So when you ask a reasoning model to say, I don't know, you can say something like, um, yeah, let's say let's use the newsletter example from before. Get into my Gmail and summarize all my newsletter, all
Hmm.
my newsletters from today. A reasoning model will do something like this. You click enter, and then you see reasoning. And the reasoning, when you open the reasoning step, says, okay, the user asked me to look at their inbox. Therefore, I must connect Gmail. A newsletter has a certain format, so I must look for emails like that. But wait, actually, I think a news. So you see that there's a token wastage being uh, happening in place, and
Yeah.
it's very convenient for the model provider because when you do that reasoning, you spend more tokens, and so that's more money for OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, etc. What you should be
Hmm.
actually be good at is figuring out the task within the limits of the limitations of the model itself. So an agent
Okay.
that thinks is not the winnable reasoning model. To be fair, I think less than 1% of all agents that we have use a reasoning model. We actually use standard plain foundation models behind the scenes because we are pretty good at identifying the task at hand and directing, steering the model already, and that allows us to mm, basically like save a ton of tokens, which means that our execution cost is lower, which means that those savings we can pass down to our customers, which means we offer one of the cheapest products ever in AI because we do a lot of hard work optimizing for the task at hand.
Yeah. That's a good premise to think that you trust on the model itself, being trained, because reasoning basically is just running loops on, at least what I think it is for someone calls me calls me out, is running loops on decisions till it arrives at like what is the logical conclusion. And for each iteration of that, that's input and output tokens being spent by the model itself, processing or reasoning, thinking. Um, and then past thinking, something I've always thought about is with agents, is because I liken them to humans, right? Or humans being replaced. When we make decisions, we have senses, right? I use my eyes, I use my ears, sometimes I watch body language to make an informed decision. I'm thinking about agents of tomorrow. How does multimodality, right, in I would say in real time practice, right? Uh, how does improvement in that help inform or improve agents in general? Right. So we've seen the OpenAI demo where you could uh, turn on like video camera and you could ask the agent, you interact with the model, and it uses your camera. But there are other senses, right? There's sound, so taking in both sound and uh, visual senses, and I wouldn't say it gives agents skin to feel touch that is going to robotics. But how have you approached multimodality and sensing with
That's a very deep and broad question because you have to approach what's possible today and what is the use case of tomorrow. And I don't think anybody has figured that out. And I'm not as pretentious as saying, yeah, I know the answer for sure. But you need to look
Yeah.
at the signals, the pointers. Like theoretically, the first thing is you already have specialized artificial intelligence that can look and detect object in images. That's actually not novel. Like when I was at Facebook,
Yeah. It's,
it was one of the things we had. Yeah, back then, it can detect types of sounds. Like that's a feature that actually you have on iOS. If a cat meows or there's a siren outside, you can get a notification for exactly that kind of sound recognition. So embedding it and making it kind of a all-in-one experience is going to be the challenge, because it involves a lot of like signal syncing, context, and speed, and none of this are available today. Neither will be probably in the near future, because it requires a change, drastic change in the architecture of those models and in the technology that that powers them. So both the architecture of the software and the hardware itself need to change and be ready for that. And we don't have, like, we basically are running these things on still on GPUs that were done for graphics, not for text. So we're kind of improvising in a way in this world. So when we
mhm.
get more specialized hardware, we're probably going to have the kind of performance. In that case, well, there's going to be the the empathy and the human factor. Like, we can do whatever we want as humans. We can like we can deploy technology for the most interesting use cases, and also for the most dangerous use cases. We can automate checkout lanes with an automated cashier. We can save lives, with a system that calls the police if you fall. We can deploy technology to precisely bomb 24 cities with a nuclear bomb whenever we want at the press of a button. So not everybody's going to be okay with those technologies. There's going to be things that are very helpful and very welcome, and things that are not okay. Like, if I could use multimodality to use a bot that folds the laundry for me, will I be happier, or will I be mad? If I go to a restaurant and I discover that the line cooker is not a human, but it's a bot that costs like $40,000 a year and doesn't have to be fed healthcare, and somebody lost their job because of how inherently cheaper the total cost of ownership of a bot versus the most terrible thing to say, the total cost of ownership of a human. If we start making those comparisons in certain geographies, for sure, and you're in Europe, I'm from Europe, so we're not going to be okay with that. So
Yeah.
just because from a cultural standpoint, AI is being dominated by a certain side of the world, it doesn't mean that's the right thing to do. And people will eventually have a preference. There's a reason why we prefer like more artisanal, handmade objects and goods, and we value them higher than the mass-produced ones, because we develop the kind of uh, awareness, the kind of empathy towards the people who make it. We tend to value uh, human imperfection as something that's there. So that is probably
Yeah.
where the market is going to be, make it or break it. Like, I'm sure Amazon is going to be amazingly pleased and surprised to be saving thousands, millions, tens of millions of dollars on wages and healthcare. You know,
Yeah.
but are we going to be okay with purchasing from Amazon again? Probably. I would probably, not do it. I already don't. So either you treat people fairly and you kind of provide the value to the end consumer, or you kind of hide these things under a blanket, because the moment humanity finds out of the very bad things you're doing, it's going to be a revolution. Like, you put people on the line, out of a job by the millions. Those people don't have a social safety net. They need to scramble for their next meal. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to be staying there, you know
Yeah.
they're going to protest, they're going to take it to the streets. So it's going to happen, the kind of reckoning, one way or the other. And companies better be careful on how they deploy things. Just because something is achievable doesn't mean that it's right. And so We can't just say, oh yeah, let's build it whatever just for the sake of conquering that spot in the sun, or being the first to plant the flag into that territory. This territory
Yeah.
marketing is not going to be useful to anybody, and we're seeing it in this very small perspective with what's happening these days with OpenAI. Like OpenAI just said, they're in a code red. They're just like basically locked down and trying to focus on only the thing that's important. Before that, they were trying to release whatever possible
Okay.
experiment out there. And
Yeah.
like, what's like, first of all, those things, 90% of them are not useful. So people don't don't see the value. They don't make any
Mhm.
impact. And second, just focus on what's important. Like focus on building something that's useful to your customers, that can make our life easier. Our original promise of AI was that you could finally spend more time with your children, or go surfing a little longer, while a system will think for you and do work for you. That's a great premise. I would definitely, purchase something that will give me time back, the most precious commodity one can have. But now
Yeah.
we have to work for AI, and so something doesn't compute. So we better be careful about like where the market is heading.
Yeah. That's great. Get time back. Work in something
Yeah,
that's more valuable. And for the mundane tasks, probably make a horizontal agent for for it, and use Toolhouse for that. I'll see.
absolutely. I
Yep.
mean, yeah,
Anyways.
we try to
Hmm.
stay like close to that promise. Like I think technology, it, it it might be like a cliche, but technology should make your life easier, happier, not
Hmm.
harder. Like I when I started Tool House, for example, I this is like an anecdote I often I often recount, because it's a kind of a telling story of where the market is heading. We were spending about 140,000, so $150,000 a year in AI tokens. And so with my co-founder and I, we having built tools to be like universal. We use like combination of models. We can switch models very easily because we do a lot of prompt optimization behind the scenes on behalf of our users.
Hmm.
That's part of simplicity as a service, our vision. And we said, okay, I already know how this conversation is going to happen. We're going to ask for an exchange of services, or figure out if there's a partnership, a collaboration, co-marketing we can do. They're not going to give us anything, and prepare to switch to a different model. And we had the conversation. It lasted like 15 minutes. The conversation went like this: hey, this is our dashboard. This is how much we're spending. Is there anything we can do? And from the other end, they told us no. You need to spend at least $250,000 if you want any attention from us.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. I was like, why? Like, we're trying to keep costs down because we want to build this affordable AI. I was like, no, let's do
Oh.
like everybody else. You just say, charge more, and your customers
Yeah.
are going to pay because it's AI. It's like, okay, not going to happen. And
No.
so
Yeah.
at the end of the call, we switched to another model, and the other provider gave us a ton of credits, which we're obviously grateful for. Um, but you see what's happening. Like it's just like a mega Ponzi scheme where people are just trying to get as much money as possible, as quick as
Hmm.
possible, without worrying about the long term impact and consequences. Like right
Yeah.
now, most of this money comes from experimentation budgets people have, and those budgets are not going to last. Once the smoke and mirrors are going to be past us, very few companies are going to stay, and those are going to be the ones that uh, are affordable and actually deliver. Or even if they don't deliver, that maybe they deliver 60%, 70% of the use case, they're so cheap that you can keep trying, and it just works because you don't reach the inflection point where the effort, both monetary and in terms of actual like work,
Yeah.
is worse than doing it yourself.
Yeah.
So a
Yeah.
lot of a lot of the companies we're seeing today are not going to last much. Those that are starting to set the foundations for the kind of economics are going to last, and we obviously are there.
Yeah. That's great. Well, I'm excited for this future, and looking forward to to what it holds. Well, I see we've come up on time, so thank you so much, Danielle. It's been nice having you on the stream today, and
True
thanks for
pleasure.
everyone. Yeah,
Thank you
this
for
has
having
been a
me.
fun
Yeah.
conversation. Yeah, time just flew flew by before I knew it. Well, that was today's episode of Everything Outside Code, and I'll see you all on the next one.
All
Cheers.
right. Cheers.